Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Shortcut. I'm Jack. This is Greg. Hey, Greg.
What's going on?
Not too much. Excited to talk today about how to go viral on TikTok. We're talking to you guys today about all the times, most of the times we've went viral on TikTok, why those videos went viral, what we can learn, what you can learn, what we've learned just from also spending years now of different strategies on TikTok. So excited to talk about that today. As someone who worked and actually was brought on full time at Kapwing, initially I started as the TikTok person. So
Yeah.
now I don't do that so much, but I've got a lot of insights from my time doing that. So excited to talk about that today.
Yeah, and I will say like we got a really positive response from the last video, like looking at all of our YouTube analytics and like hits and misses. And so yeah, I think this time we're going to focus mostly on kind of like the hits like on TikTok, and it's actually brand new for me in terms of like this will be the first time I really go deep like on like terms of like analytics and views performance, because like you said, we've kind of found that YouTube is sort of like it's like a better platform for us right now, just because we get so much more out of like repurposing the videos, and we feel like much more confident, consistent in our ability to like use YouTube search. But yes, really sort of like historic run, I guess, like kind of an epic run here from Jack when he previously managed the account, and still some videos that like I think stand out as like, wow, like a brand can get that many views and impressions that fast, and some cool patterns. I think that like now that we've looked back on it, there's definitely some patterns here in terms of like which videos worked for us. So yeah, excited to dive in. Hopefully we kind of push the envelope on transparency with our accounts again here. I think that's something we'll try to do going forward. So
yeah, totally. We're going to show you 5 videos today of varying degrees of virality. And then for most of them, we're going to show you the analytics charts as well. So yeah, I can pull one up first, which was from, it was about, okay, so you guys know Spotify Wrapped, of course. One thing we've done at Kapwing before is we actually did a Netflix Wrapped. This was in 2022. We did I made a YouTube video and then repurposed a YouTube video on how to get your Netflix Wrapped. So you like download your data from Netflix and uploaded it to Kapwing, and it's sort of like a unofficial Netflix Wrapped. And this one ended up doing pretty well. It got like 130,000 views. It has a bunch of it has a bunch of comments about it. And then also, like, not only that, but a good measure of success is always it crashed our servers.
yeah.
So people were commenting being like, I can't use Netflix Wrapped, whatever, because like we didn't expect so many people to be trying at one time. Like it was like like hundreds of people trying to fetch their data like per minute, which was really cool. And yeah, that was like a really good example of a stunt that we did that was really successful, that we like sort of like used TikTok as a really useful growth channel for us. Separately, another reason why it like did so well is because there was this other creator who posted that like just not even how to, like she posted like, oh my god, you guys, there's a Netflix Wrapped now. And like it got like millions of views. And then so that's why like the tutorial on it, which was what I made, also then like picked up on that, because people were actually searching for it for the key terms that were in the video, which were Netflix Wrapped 2022. And I can show you the analytics real quick. Just 1 second.
Yeah, while you're pulling that up, I'll say I think like we'll get into this deeper like later in the video, but it's interesting like this both like there's 2 things that stand out to me. Is like one is like we actually built this separate thing, and so then when we made the video about it, it was like truly unique, and like your video was like the first way people could not only check out the tool or learn about the tool, but actually like maybe even solve the problem, the thing that they were trying to solve in general, which was like get their Netflix history and see it the same way they see Spotify, right?
Right.
And then the second, real quick, and we'll jump into the analytics here, but the second is just like meeting a moment that people already know. They already know Spotify Wrapped. I mean, one of the reasons I think the Netflix Wrapped worked so well and the video then ended up working so well is just like you instantly kind of get what it's going to be. The name alone probably tells you everything you need to know to at least click and check it out. But yeah.
And you can see the caption too, how to see your Netflix Wrapped 2022. Like there's no two ways about it. You know, it's like
right to the point.
Yeah. Which I think is really important. Yeah, these are the stats from the video. And yeah, you can see that search is like 89% of how people found this video, which is really interesting because like it wasn't really a searchable thing until like we sort of made it a moment, which is really cool to see that like, you know, sometimes of course you want to go after search terms, but also sometimes like you can try and make those search terms, and like in that case it really worked, which was cool. Average watch time 18 seconds I think is pretty good for TikTok. These are like outdated numbers, I'm pretty sure. Like I don't,
they're time bound.
Time bound, but yeah, pretty interesting look at this.
Yeah, and I think again, like once again, not to keep teasing, you know, later in the video, but we will, I think, touch on like actually two things. Number one, if you're watching this right when it comes out, there is just for some reason, like a raging debate happening over on LinkedIn where someone from the world of SEO said that like TikTok is a search engine that everyone has to care about. And there was a lot of pushback on like, no, it's not a search engine. It's just like a platform that has a search bar. You know, I think like the more reasonable commentary landed on like, by definition, it may not be a search engine in the sense that it like indexes and pulls web pages. But I think if you look at this traffic source breakdown, at least for this video, right, like the number of people discovering it via search is like it was really eye-opening to me. I think for anybody who kind of stays they're not really in the mix of looking at like TikTok analytics and evaluating performance of individual videos. I think there's this like stereotype that the For You page is the kingmaker and like that's all that matters. And here we have a video that basically did not lean on that at all. And I think, you know, there are definitely some differences between like TikTok search and YouTube search, especially around like long tail, like how long the search sort of pays off or how long the search can sort of like grow the video. But in terms of discovery, I mean, the numbers tell the tale here. Really interesting. I sort of never honestly expected to see search like that high for any TikTok video. So this was definitely an eye opener for me.
Yeah, well, no spoilers, but we might be seeing more of that today. I think that's a really interesting thing too, is like, if you look at the like watched full video, it's like under 4%. Like this retention rate isn't like incredible. But like, honestly, like if you're going after search views, that doesn't matter as much as just like making sure that the content is teaching people what they want and has the search terms in the caption and in like subtitles or, you know, text to speech or whatever. It sort of matters less because like with this or these types of videos, you're not really going after trying to get views from the For You page. So of course, always you want the video, like you want people to stay, but yeah, it's just something to know that it's not like everything all the time on TikTok.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like watch time or full, you know, percentage of like full view time or whatever is all relative. Like you have to kind of orient it around performance of other videos, the goal of the video. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how these other videos pan out that way.
Yeah, so for the second one, we have this video I did on how to make like AI portraits of yourself using this app called Lensa. This was like a big thing near the end of 2020. And yeah, this one performed actually even better than the first one, I believe. It had, I think, over 700,000 views, which was pretty good. I mean, obviously that's pretty good. I can pull that up on the analytics page as well here. Just give me 1 second.
Yeah. And I think this one was interesting for me, like, because the timing, I think the timing was like just right. and that
Yeah.
it kind of hit TikTok when enough people knew about this to like seek it out. But we talk about this concept a lot, or at least we did, especially on the YouTube sort of version of this. But the first best instructional video, which is kind of maybe it's like misnamed in a way, but it's like you don't actually have to be the first video, and you don't have to be the ultimate end all best video, but you have to be the first video that truly helps people solve it
Right.
end to end, right? It's like it's just the first video that is the best solution right when it's kind of taking off. And that's where I think this video hit the sweet spot, because it's like,
Right.
was it the first ever video to use the word Lenza or the app even? Perhaps not, but it hit at a moment where people really wanted to figure out how to do this, and you showed them how to do it end to end, and it just sort of, the timing was like right on the money, I think.
Totally, yeah. And once again, you can see search here is carrying. Oh my God, 98%. Like that's
Yeah,
pretty insane.
they don't even bother to show the other
I know,
traffic
they
source
don't
we're just
exist.
gonna go with. Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty nuts. This, yeah, only like less than 3% watched the entire video. Sometimes I wonder if these numbers are like a little bit skewed though, because like if you just click off the last second, like I don't know. But
Right.
anyway, but yeah, really successful video for us. Again, going after these search terms. In the caption, it's very, very laid out how to make AI generated profile pictures using the Lensa app. Once again, also, you can see that this is from well, maybe you can see. This was actually a YouTube video I made on my like DSLR. So yeah, again, like repurposing can be really useful sometimes. And yeah, so I think it goes to show like I don't know, not always is it worth like turning a YouTube video into like tons of clips if it doesn't feel like easy to explain, especially for a tutorial. Like if you're doing a really complex tutorial that's going to take like 10 minutes, maybe not, but like this one was pretty simple, so we put it on TikTok as well, and like it really performed actually both on YouTube and on TikTok like really well on both of them, which was pretty fascinating.
Great. Yep, really cool. And I think it kind of highlights too, like there is probably more of an incentive to go YouTube to TikTok in particular, like that platform transition in particular, when it's something trending. Like that, at least like it's probably, you should be maybe more inclined to experiment with something repurposed when you're like, we're going to make this YouTube video on a trending topic, but TikTok is like the place for, I would say, kind of like non-newsy trends, especially. I know news is there nowadays, but I think, still lots of people lean on kind of like Twitter and stuff like that for like truly breaking journalistic news. But yeah, trends in terms of like discovering a trend, researching a trend, or like acting on a trend. I mean, this is the nexus. This is where a lot of it starts. So
completely, yeah. Third, we have another tutorial. You might be able to start seeing some trends here. This was on how to make those personalized fake Spotify music festival lineup. It would take like, it would take your Spotify data and then create like, like a fake lineup for you that looked like sort of like Coachella. And yeah, again, super simple tutorial, really spelled out caption, how to make the personalized fake, it's like what you're looking up, and really short. This one was only 33 seconds, like really, really simple. No fluff in here. And if we take a look at the analytics, this one got over 800,000 views. And yeah, once again, 98% search. Like people, this is a trend. People want to know how to do it. It's like tale as old as time. People see someone else posting something and they want to know how, and you go after those things. Before, like, I think we were maybe the first people to cover this. In this case,
like literally first on this one.
One of the first. I started seeing this and I was like, well, I know what I'm doing today. So sometimes you just have to like really take action and make something simple as well.
Yeah, and I think that there's I think a pattern probably most folks at home are probably noticing here is that like you if you cannot find a good solution to that thing that you keep seeing everywhere instantly, like that's like the universe calling out for a video to be made, right? You keep seeing this, you keep hearing it referenced. You're seeing the sort of spin-off memes about it, right? There's some sort of like source thing that everyone's talking about, but you know, because like the in crowd is often first to like a trend, like they usually aren't the first to think of like, let me actually explain this to people in this more sort of like a kind of instructional step-by-step way, you know, because it's like not necessarily the coolest thing ever to like do that. So that leaves this door open for all these folks who are like, what is everyone talking about? Like, what is this? Or like, I've seen this, but I want to do it and I can't figure it out. You know, so you sort of like let the truly trending crowd start this stuff, right? Like
Yeah,
start the trend, and then if you catch it right on the upswing and actually show the rest of us normies how to do it, you know, you're kind of you're filling a much needed sort of like role in the like life cycle of a trend, I think.
definitely. Yeah, another one. Now here's where sort of things change a little bit, actually.
Yeah, interesting.
So those few very search oriented. I wanted to give you guys an example also of some more like FYP big
Yeah,
things. So this was a heavy hitter. This was actually probably our heavy. I mean, look at the comments, 3,400 comments. Like, let's
yeah,
go.
ton.
Um,
Yeah,
this was like the first week at Kapwing I ever worked or something. I made this video and it slayed. But um, but this was a video I made on Adobe, like a controversy on Adobe that people, it was all over, it was trending on Twitter, just about their like Creative Cloud subscriptions. And it was more like commentary and like reading over people's opinions and things like that, rather than like, and reporting, I guess, rather than like showing or teaching anything. It's more of a reporting thing.
yeah,
And also at the end, I end up doing like a call out to Kapwing, about like how we're free, or, you know, at the time we were like really going for like free. So
yeah,
yeah, like really pushing Kapwing as well, and it works really well,
yeah.
which was really exciting. And unfortunately, I can't show you guys the analytics for this one because this video is so old. It's from 2021. It like I made it literally before analytics existed on TikTok, and so they don't allow you to see that on desktop. But I actually can pull the analytics from the mobile app, so I'll just read those to
Yeah,
you. But yeah, so from the mobile app, I have a few key takeaways. Number one, this one is different. 94% For You page views,
yeah,
only 1% search, which is highly different. It also, I mean, this is no surprise because if it hits the FYP, like it's got to keep people watching. It had the highest average view time. It had 34-second view time out of a 50-second video, which is almost, you know, 2/3 watch time, and 32% of people watch the entire video, which is, I think, really high.
yeah,
And yeah, I just sort of thought that was pretty fascinating, that even like a video with like a promo for our product could like do so well.
yeah.
And something else to note, this is just more anecdotal, I guess, but the amount of like followers that we gained from this video was so different from like even viral videos of the same amount of views that we've had. I think that's for a few reasons. Like I don't remember for sure, but I think like this single video got us like 8,000 followers or something, as opposed
Right,
to the Lenza tutorial, which got us like 300 maybe or something.
right, right.
I think there's a few reasons. Number one, this was back in 2021. I think people were like more chill with following brands back then, and I think it's gotten harder. Number two, it also painted our brand in a good light. It
Yeah,
was like comparing to a viral moment that like made us look really good.
yeah.
Um,
And generally,
and
the brand was like mentioned more directly in the video. Like it's we're really
yeah,
direct about. Yeah. So
definitely. And also, yeah, I think like it seems to be that getting on FYP on For You page versus search, maybe people are more likely to follow you if you're on their For You page rather than searching. I can't be like sure, like I'm not like, I don't know, it's you know, correlation
Yeah, it's
does
a
not equal
theory.
causation, but
Yeah.
it might be true.
Yeah, I think this video is really awesome. It has a couple interesting things here. Like a lot of people talk about like, do we mention competitors and stuff? And I think this was a good example of like punching up about news that kind of Adobe really had made for themselves because they were sort of doing something that a ton of people disagree with. I think that the distribution of like where the views came from make a ton of sense in terms of the topic because who knows to look for this?
Right.
And like
Yeah.
even if you do, the number of people looking for like some odd thing that Adobe is doing with its customers versus some trend that like tens of millions of people have seen. Like, of course, the For You page had to be the source to kind of hold this video up, right? Because no one knew to search, and probably until they saw your video. If anything, there's probably some videos out there about this topic that have search views caused by this video in a way.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
yeah. So I think it's really interesting. I also think like the lie from the green screen, as I kind of like look at it, like the sort of like reporty, like journalistic, but I've got the green screen just showing you kind of the context and the backdrop is like tried and true on TikTok. Like you've seen a video here from 2021 that worked, but I don't think that one has really lost its luster. I think that format still works when it's used the right way. So
Yeah, absolutely. And this last one we're going to show is kind of the same format. This was another sort of like fast follow, like within a month from the previous one. Again, like talking about sort of a trending controversy. This was about how TikTok was being sued by this voice actor who used to be like the classic text-to-speech TikTok voice. Bev Standing was her name. And yeah, again, this was an FYP hitter, more of a reporting thing. And yeah, these videos can do really well. This one, 1,400 comments, so still really great. I think like, videos that, hit FYP and are about like an interesting topic rather than like a direct search are more inclined probably for like higher engagement. That's why we see the higher watch time, higher, percentage of people completing the video, more comments. It's just more of like a interesting forum, I guess, when you can present something like that. Again, this was 2021, so I can't pull up the data because this was before analytics existed.
True vintage.
I know, I'm old, I guess. But I can tell you some of the stats just offhand. Yes. Okay, so firstly, this one was 82% For You page. Actually, there was 11% from search, so slightly,
more mixed.
Slightly more mixed. High watch time at 30 seconds. The video is only like 57 seconds long, so pretty good. I think, obviously For You page did really well because the watch time is good, but I think at the time it was also like a trending thing. It was during that time when everyone was like, TikTok's gonna get shut down, it's gonna get banned. Like every news of like the company being in trouble, like people were eating that up. And so I think that also contributed. That one was definitely a more mixed bag. That was almost 400,000 views.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think this one, like, it once again shows that For You, I think, seems to be determined a little bit more by like, you have to be maybe more novel. Like, I think For You might be a little bit tougher to be the fast follower. Like, you kind of have to be the person that gets other people searching about this. Like, obviously, this story, for instance, was probably, it was covered on like Reuters or CNN or something, maybe as the actual breaking story. But no one had like distilled it into the place that a lot of people go to first to find out like what's happening, right? So that, that's another example of like, maybe this one was like actually one of the first to the platform. It might not have been first in the sense of like we literally broke the story.
Yeah,
Some
I'm not a
journalist somewhere.
journalist.
Yeah, definitely full credit to the source, which is often journalists. But like the first to really again take it to this format, take it to TikTok. So interesting kind of patterns between some of these videos here.
Yeah, so those are all the 5 videos that we're gonna show today. I think there are some takeaways though that you can look at just sort of like by grouping them together on going viral, at least from our point of view and our experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think number 1 is trends, obviously. For us, that's worked time and time again. It's worked. We do that not just on TikTok, but we also have done that on YouTube. It's there are so many trends, especially on TikTok. There's video trends. There are like filters. There are even like text to speech. Like there was a time, especially a couple of years ago, when like almost anything that like was new on TikTok, you could make a video about and like expect to get quite a few views. And then of course there's also trends like the last 2 that are more of like news related trends. So there's like platform trends, creator trends, and then like actual world trends. And it seems like they perform in very different ways, it seems to me.
Yeah, and I would just plus one something we kind of talked about briefly previously in this chat, which was just like TikTok is like the trends platform. Like it is like trends central. I would say like for those of you who saw our YouTube video, our YouTube breakdown rather as well, like the lifespan of your average TikTok video just seems much shorter. So sort of course, it makes intuitive sense that like you need to be on this rising tide. You need to find like, I think that like a surfing or a wave metaphor is really appropriate. Like you need to sort of ride this thing that's going to lift you up rather than always look to be like, the trend starter. I think that's doable and very valuable when you do it, but very hard to do consistently versus just like, what is the world talking about right now? And how do we like add to this conversation rather than just like parrot it? But it's, you're fighting against the nature of TikTok if you're fighting against trends. Like if you want to be trend free, it really seems to be what works. So yeah, interesting observation, and definitely number 1, I think, from me. Like this stood out the most with our videos.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, this is kind of obvious, but you want to be quick, you want to be close to first at least, and if you're not first, you want to be better. Like you've got to be really fast or really great. I think number 2 is this is a slightly different than a trend. It's more of like a seasonal I guess almost psychological like bet. But like when we were doing our Netflix Wrapped, like that's not really a trend until you make it one. So I think timing, getting just thinking about what people have been interested before in and try to create something maybe similar or based on that. You can get a lot of information of like other viral moments that have happened to inform other things like us, and then we made Netflix Wrapped. So that's obviously like a bigger to do, but it ended up being a really interesting stunt as well.
And I think the difference here is sort of like, it's not something that's necessarily like, yes, this Spotify Wrap, for instance, like it has its time of the year that it comes out and it's a big deal. But there are other instances of this that you'll see on TikTok where people will maybe say, do breakdowns of a really well-known, but even like old example of something like a famous movie or something like that. Like 5, continuity errors. This would be kind of like a video editing one, but like 5 continuity errors you didn't notice from Star Wars or Casablanca or something. But it's just like, what's similar about the two, I think, is that like you're once again leaning on something that other people already know of. So there's something in the title, in the thumbnail, just in the video overall of like, oh, I recognize that. It's like, it's going to be new, hopefully information, but it's familiar because it's based off of something people are already aware about, right? Like
Yeah.
your Netflix Wrapped, it's like, what am I going to get back from this? But all you need to see are the words Netflix Wrapped, and you immediately know what it is. And I think actually in some sort of alternate universe where like Spotify Wrapped didn't exist, trying to pitch that video, that tool was much harder. Like
way harder. Oh my
it's
god.
this weird sort of like get your Netflix data and look at it. It's like it lacks that snappy like brand familiarity of like, oh, it's just like that other thing I know. So yeah, there's trends of like meeting the moment, and then there's just like looking at, like a lot of animators, for instance, do like fan animations because people know the characters of famous like media franchises, blah blah blah. It's just like, what's something familiar you can use to tie in to this thing that you want to talk about or you want to show,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we've had some success with that, clearly. Yeah, again, I think this is maybe more obvious, but when you're doing trending or even just like a tutorial video, even if it's not trending, even if it's not a simple tutorial, like, I don't know, how to, crop, even, let's say, like, you want to be early. So obviously if that's trending, that helps. But if you're not early, you want to be the best. It's important to, the first video that gets posted about something, if it's not helpful to people, it's not going to matter. It's not going to stay trending. And so like quality is also really important. That is the same on pretty much anywhere you post video, not just TikTok. The thing about TikTok that even like makes it more easy though is that like if you're not first, a lot of times like you said, like videos generally on TikTok don't stay relevant for more than a few weeks. And so like you could sort of create another video that's better about like a similar or same topic of someone else that's went viral, if it gives you better information in a month, and it still might go viral if people are still like looking for tutorial on that. So I think that's also the interesting thing is like, yeah, you don't have to be, speed is helpful on TikTok, but if a piece of content, or not a piece of content, if a interest stays interesting, you don't really have to be first. Like,
right.
Only if it's like super trending and gonna stop trending, you have to be first. But
trend or trend and like meme sort of timelines have definitely gotten shorter, so you got to be fast. But there, like you said, there is that tension of doing it the absolute first and really doing it the first to do it right, I guess would maybe be how I would try to summarize that. If you're the first to do it right, there's usually more to gain there than to be the absolute literal first. So I think that's the tension that like social media managers and just video creators generally have to hold, but especially with TikTok, like you really have to balance that tension of like, yes, we could go out today, but if we just have enough time to do it tomorrow, we feel like we could really solve this for people and or just show this off end to end, right? We can kind of be the last stop on this topic for most people before it kind of dries out. So and I think something related to this would actually be something that like our CEO Julia first wrote when like back in like 2019 when she was posting some of the initial videos to TikTok, which is just like you have to test like a lot. You have to test a lot of formats. You have to publish a lot of videos, and it can be a grind. Like we'll be the first to admit here that like one reason we focused on YouTube is like, as you've seen, actually, like some of our biggest successes on TikTok actually came from a YouTube video. And we also find like YouTube to be a little bit more of like it compounds just a little bit better, at least in terms of like how we work our investment into these channels. Like, so what I mean, if folks aren't familiar with that term, is just like the growth like layers on top of itself. Like videos can stay relevant for longer on YouTube, they get discovered for longer, views grow on longer timelines. So TikTok can really feel like this like treadmill that you're like you have to actually run at a sprint like at all times. So there's good and bad about that, but I think like one thing that really is like emphasized on TikTok is you have to experiment. You got to just say, this idea doesn't have a ton of validation. It's actually new and breaking and trending, and we just got to try it. or this format seems to be taking off. It's weird. We don't get it, but people seem to really respond to it. Let's just try it. You have to really be in that kind of like, we're in the lab here running experiments kind of mindset. You got to do it a lot.
Yeah.
Too.
And I think you also need to be aware of like what your goals are from TikTok, especially if you're a brand. Like for a creator, obviously your goal might just be like get a following. But for brands on TikTok, I think there's a distinction you need to make about like really what is the main goal, because you know, we've gotten a lot of views on TikTok before, but they don't like no one on TikTok, I don't think, no matter who you are, really probably is going to like go to your bio and click a link and go to your website and try your product, right? Like we've had millions and millions of views, and like I think that first quarter when I did, or first 6 months when I did, yeah, like a lot of those viral videos, at least those first two, and there were several others that were like semi-viral. I think we had 4 direct link clicks. Even though like in that video, I, you know, had a whole like product in the most viral one. I had a whole product like chat. And so I think like you need to start considering like, is the goal community? Is the goal name recognition? Is the goal that maybe people will start searching like just for your brand name on Google, and it won't be direct links, but maybe you'll still get like a wave of search. So yeah, it's just interesting to like note that too, and like manage expectations, number one, and also like figure out and test different metrics to test how many people are coming, because like like if you're only testing based on direct link clicks in your bio, like
prepare to be disappointed.
You're not gonna have a good day.
I would say like I won't belabor this point. We've talked about this plenty on the podcast, but sometimes you really do need some sort of like ability to measure self attribution, or just ask customers, users, signups, community members, whatever you're tracking. You just need to be able to ask them directly. Of course, like at the time, obviously you saw we've got some vintage hits on the platform here, and at the time we weren't, for instance, like asking people who upgrade, like where they first heard of us. So we did not have that data at the time. So that was one way we maybe could have like measured more. Like you said, sometimes maybe all you're going to be able to see is a lift in branded search or direct traffic. So if you're investing heavily on TikTok and not so much elsewhere, and you start doing really well and you see this massive lift in branded search and direct visits to the website, you know, like you can kind of isolate reasonably that's like, oh, TikTok is helping to drive this, but still perhaps no one is actually clicking link in bio. So you have to look full picture for sure.
Yeah, like when we did our Spotify or Netflix Wrapped thing, it literally like took down the server, but I'm pretty sure it was like 2 link clicks. Like, it's crazy. No one does that anymore. So on TikTok at least. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, and then lastly, we've, you know, talked about this the whole episode, but search, TikTok search, it's really powerful. Some people, I think, underestimate how powerful it is, but it's the platform that like most Gen Z people, especially, and maybe even millennials, like go to first when they're looking for video. Most people probably know also that like not everyone's obsessed with reading an article these days. Sometimes you just want a video explaining it, and the best place to do that is oftentimes TikTok. So yeah, it's very different type of search than YouTube. It's trendy spikes, and you know, your videos probably that do really well on search might not do well on search forever like they would on YouTube. Last week we showed you some videos that we have that practically get like as many views now, like 3 years after we posted them, than they did, or more than they did like when we posted them. That like won't really happen probably on TikTok too much. But several of our top videos, as you saw, have like over 95% or 90% TikTok search views. So
you know what, something I really liked, like a concept that we kind of discussed in the YouTube video, the YouTube conversation, was like YouTube allows you to sort of go like slow viral with videos, like millions of views, which to the person that doesn't know the growth rate of the video, might just look like it had some viral moment, like someone
Yeah.
mentioned it, or it went to the YouTube homepage straight away. And then
Right.
when you actually look at the data, it's like, no, this was a slow burn over many like years in some cases.
Yeah.
It seems like, now we haven't looked, we did not come and break down like 100 videos with you today, but from our most viewed videos, it doesn't seem like slow viral really is too much of a thing on TikTok. That would really break the norm of how this platform works. So search on TikTok is not really like a slow viral or like a SEO style play in the way that folks might think of SEO in the traditional sense, like on YouTube and Google web search. But search seems to be the way to catch people who are noticing something happening, something that's growing, a trend that's been around a little bit but not really fully explained. And they go to TikTok search and they're looking for someone to explain it to them. I
Yeah.
know this is a little bit dismissive, and I'm definitely like half joking here, but like TikTok search is for the normies. Normies are like, they don't get first contact with all of the weird emerging trends. They go to search and they're like looking for someone to explain it to them. That's what I do. Normie here. Like Norm here. I should change my name too. But yeah, it's like, it's a great way to meet people kind of at the right moment when something is just taking off, but it really needs that explanation. But from what we've seen, maybe not. Maybe you shouldn't bank on it as long term as like web and YouTube search. It's just from our experience. If you've got counter examples, I'd love to see it, because I think there's a lot of variation on TikTok, but that seems to be pretty consistent,
Definitely. Yeah, definitely agree. Cool. Yeah. Well, that is all the takeaways that we have for today, and all the videos we wanted to show you for how to go viral on TikTok. For us, it's never going to be the same, as Greg said. For anyone, different creators will have very different strategies. We've gotten lucky quite a few times on TikTok, and it's been really interesting to continue focusing on TikTok at certain points, and other times now we've moved towards YouTube. If you watched last episode, you know that. So really easy, or not really exciting, to like look back on a platform that we've experimented with a whole lot over the years.
Yeah. And I think something that's really interesting to watch, we actually just covered, for those of you watching this on release day, like last Friday, TikTok adding a ton of long form, testing 30-minute videos as we speak, running a beta right now for 1-minute horizontal videos as well. Like truly the YouTubeification of TikTok has begun. So, this is the TikTok as I think we know it today, in a sense. Like, I know some of this stuff is a little bit older, but I do think it's pretty representative of like the TikTok today. But in 6 months to a year, who knows? Like, there may actually be much more familiarity with YouTube, or maybe some other totally different pattern will emerge in terms of what works. So really interesting to see that as TikTok tries to shift to long form without I think maybe upsetting or jarring people too much, who are sort of like, why is this TikTok video say 27 minutes in duration?
Right.
We'll have to see how that goes.
Interestingly, also, I made a video about speaking of trends. Like, sometimes you have a video that like you make and it feels like it's going to do nothing, and then like years later on YouTube, like a video I posted almost 2 years ago about how to make sideways TikToks is now continuing
resurging,
to get more views. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So
interesting.
different types of vibes, YouTube and TikTok for sure.
Yep. Very cool.
But yeah, thanks so much for watching. We are here every week, so make sure to come back and check out the shortcut next week, and we will see you guys later.
All right. Take care.